for joining us on the Right of Way Report, a podcast by Pikeoff OTA. You can join us here every Monday morning at 10 a.m., where we will bring you updates on legislation, litigation, and landowner information. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you today?
I'm excellent. How are you?
You know, pretty good. I'm not looking forward to another day of 106 degrees at 5 p.m. still, but this morning at 4 o'clock when I got up, it was like 82 and humid. I'd like for it not to be triple digits, but that will happen soon enough.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to the extreme temperatures either. I'm also not looking forward to another round of city council tomorrow night.
Yeah, Kelly and I were talking off stream about this, and we feel like it's Groundhog's Day all the time with the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority. They come at us hard, and we beat them, and then 6 months later they show up, try to do the same thing, and we have to beat them back. And then they show up, it's been 2 years now, because we shot down the resolution of cooperation the first time in August through October of 2024, if you remember. Mm-hmm. We went in the first time and shot it down. And then the city staff brought it back and says that their constituents would like to reassess the applicability of having more interchanges along the east-west connector. So Kelly and I and a bunch of other people spent a whole bunch of time educating the council people then, and they came to a conclusion in October of 2024 that they are going to postpone it indefinitely until the OTA would come and give a town hall and answer all of our questions. And then what did the OTA do? They said, we're not coming to the town halls. We don't want to meet. We're too far down the road with this. We're just going to do what we want to do. And we're not listening to the city of Norman anymore. And what people didn't understand then was they already had 5 interchanges on the east-west connector. They didn't need they were asking for another 4 or 5. And so now we're back talking about the southern extension. And I've got a SUBSTACK coming out. It'll come out hopefully this afternoon about giving you some background on that and what they're asking for. They're asking for 3 additional interchanges on Etowah, Alameda, and Tecumseh. Because of safety, Kelly, because of safety. But if people kind of with open eyes, and everyone that's listening to this podcast has open eyes and clear eyes, as the president of OU always says, if you have clear eyes, you can see quite clearly where the strings are being pulled, because they want these interchanges for development purposes only. Don't let them sell you on safety. But we'll get into that today, and then we're going to talk about the elections tomorrow. In case anyone forgot, there's still primaries to go, and we'd like to have more than a 10% turnout, but we'll see. We don't have any endorsements for you, but we're going to tell you just to go out and vote. And also on the state questions, there's 2 state questions you got to know about. But I will say it now, and we'll say it in the middle, and we'll say it at the end. We need everybody in the city of Norman to show up at City Council tomorrow, the 25th of August, at 6:30, wearing red, showing your support, to ask the council to say no to the resolution of cooperation. And we also would like you to sign up to speak if you so choose. I don't know where that one is. I created a banner, but it's not there. So the resolution of cooperation is on the agenda for August 25th. We're going to send emails to all the council members. In my Substack, there'll be some words you can copy and paste and put in there, or send your own version of it. But the council people need to hear from you about what to do. And then you can sign up to speak. We'll put the link in the comments. So I'll put that in right now. Sign up to speak. It's item 29 and then miscellaneous comments. So if you would do that for us, and it's a 4-minute speech, and just speak from the heart, or you can put some words together in a little script and read it. Remember, people pay attention in 30-second chunks, so try to make your point pretty clear, and then move on. But there's lots of things to talk about tomorrow, not just the 5th, 6th, 7th round of this resolution of cooperation. And so, yeah, there you go. Repeat ad nauseum, round and round we go. Why are they coming back at us with these resolutions of cooperation? So, for those of you who are new, you have to understand that they need a resolution of cooperation to touch any infrastructure that is owned by the municipality, the county, the city. They can touch infrastructure like state highways because the state owns it. But they can't come on to city roads unless they have our permission. And by state statute, they have to have these resolution of cooperations to be able to do any of their work. And so, like Kelly and I were talking about it, and if you watch the video in my Substack that I'm going to put up there of Joe and Kelly talking, we don't really want these interchanges. We don't care. The city of Norman wanted them. The city of Norman.
Oops.
The city of. Sorry, that was my phone. The city of Norman wants these. We don't want them. No, they maybe they are ambivalent, but the people that are behind the OTA, the bankers and the developers, definitely want the interchanges, and for one reason only, because of service roads. So they want the interchanges so they can be connected by service roads, so that the zoning can be busted, and that they can bring in commercial and industrial zoning right along the turnpike, and that will bust all that East Norman zoning, which says 1 home per 10 acres, protect the watershed. And also all of these interchanges that you'll see in my Substack, I wrote about it a year ago, but all of the health harms to living next to a roadway, especially in an interchange. You have changing directions of lights, so it affects homeowners that live nearby, also the wildlife, all the lighting that's required, the static lighting that's required on the interchanges, with plus or minus a few 100 feet to half a mile around the interchanges, which will ruin our night sky. You've got air quality, and that southern extension is within a half a mile, sometimes a quarter mile, of 2 elementary schools that I know of. Actually 3, Robin Hill, Washington, and then Noble High School. So air quality is a problem. We've got accelerating and decelerating noise on these interchanges. We've got additional eminent domain. So, but they want the interchanges specifically for development because this is Kilpatrick 2.0. They want to make East Norman developable. And the only way they can do that is to slash a roadway through it. Because linear transportation is the best way to force development along that boundary. And so we already know that the city of Noble has asked for a service road between Etowah and McGuire, which is a big mistake in my opinion. So we have to be unequivocal about saying no, because if they build it, and if it's gonna be built, they have an interchange at the east-west connector, at State Highway 9, at State Highway 77, and at I-35. That is plenty, wouldn't you say, Kelly?
Yeah, that's plenty for sure.
Yeah. And so I'm going to provide, you don't have to know all the state statutes and all that, but if you are new, I really do hope you'll take the 5 minutes to read some of the things I put out in October of 2024 to understand why they keep coming back, and that even though the city of Norman, the council members maybe kind of remember what they did 2 years ago, we really have to remind them. And the one thing that's so funny to me is that I'm gonna put this up here. I gotta find it first. Oh, okay. I'm gonna show you a screenshot of a text message that the city manager sent to all the city council members after they had shot down that resolution of cooperation for the final time in October of 2024. So Daryl Powell says, "Good afternoon, Council. I was just on the phone with Joe Kelly, Director of the OTA. He indicated that his staff and the board watched the meeting on YouTube. They decided they could wait no longer and will be moving forward without frontage roads and access points in Norman." And that's, yeah, you should be clapping. Yay, that's good. Okay. He did share that any lost revenue will be offset by saving $200 million in construction costs. They won't be participating in any town hall or any more meetings in Norman. He thanked us for our effort and said his board will make an announcement to that effect after their next board meeting. Based on this information, staff will prepare a message to be posted indicating that there will be no town hall in the next few weeks on the subject. Okay, then fast forward until August 11th of this year, 2026, when the OTA and all of their engineering consultant minions, including the right-of-way manager, Poe & Associates, and Garver Engineering, were all there talking about how awesome their southern extension was going to be and how they were going to vegetate the right-of-way to make it look more natural, and they were going to take care of the flooding, and they were wanted to make those interchanges so it was a safety issue and we can get safety personnel on and off quicker. And all I wanted to say was, safety personnel can get on and off your turnpike without an interchange, number one. And number two, you have a ton of turnpikes all over the state where the average distance between interchanges is like 25 miles. So why do we have to have 5 interchanges within a 7-mile slog? Oh, I'm sorry, development, that's right. And then, you know, I want to read you what
Oh,
the
sorry.
president
I did not
of,
mean to post that.
The president of OU said he supports adding those 2 interchanges because they are essential and desperately needed for economic prosperity. Having these 2 gateways to Norman will absolutely magnify the prosperity of the city. Okay, is that economic development, Kelly? I think that's economic development.
Sounds like it.
You can't use eminent domain for economic development. I swear that I feel like all of these entities, including the legislature, the attorney general, the president of OU is saying, oh my gosh, we need these for economic development. Okay, people, you can't use it. And then I think just because the law doesn't mean anything. So we can obviously prove that they're using it for economic development, but then they say it's for safety and, well, actually they say it's not for relieving the congestion on I-35 now. We know that. But so what we need you to do is sign up to speak, write your council people to say no to this resolution. And I'm going to pull up the resolution. I'll show this to you at the very end, what it is. Okay, so the resolution, this is the cooperation resolution. This is what they need by statute in order to come in. So, and Kelly always has a good point. If they didn't need this resolution, why wouldn't they just go straight to a contract? Why wouldn't they just go straight to a contract that's legally enforceable? This resolution, they say, is not legally enforceable, but by statute, they need a resolution of cooperation to actually work with the city to get on their streets. They don't have to. They can say in a meeting, and they can say in this resolution that we'll put native grasses in our right-of-way to make it look more natural, that we will take care of the flooding, we will make sure we mitigate any damages coming off the roadway. Oh, by the way, Kelly, didn't they say that they were going to do an environmental report, an impact statement before they started construction?
Mm-hmm.
Where
Yes,
is
they
that?
did.
Can you tell me where that is?
Yeah, well, so I guess they're working on it,
Yeah,
but
they're working on it.
they're not finished with it yet. And something that I found interesting. Oh shoot! It looks like it might have pulled it off. Let's see if it's still here. Oh, it's still here. Hold on, I'm gonna share my screen for just a second. Maybe. Let's do a share screen. It's telling me I have to turn something on to do this. Maybe I'll just do a. Hold on.
Yeah, the whole point is, so they have this environmental study done on the east-west connector that I wrote about, and they did a noise study. I think we talked about
That's what I'm looking for right now. Yeah,
Looking
that's
for
what
the
I'm
noise
looking
study?
for.
Yeah, and they did this noise study, and they're like, oh, well, you know, the decibel level will be about 65 decibels, and that's definitely, you know, loud enough to have a mitigation solution, but it's not economically viable for us to do it because it's only going to impact several homeowners. And I'm like, okay, this is such a bogus study. And
Right.
I'm just getting ready to put out, and I say this all the time because they're always half done, but I have a bunch of videos along roadways in the metro for you to hear what 80 decibels is and 60 decibels and how that would make you feel living next to that in perpetuity. It's like exhausting.
Yep.
I was at a location a couple weeks ago where it was a sustained 85 decibels, and I was 300 feet away from I-240 in Del City and Midwest City, in that area. And I literally could not hear my kids talking at all. I had to put my hands behind my ears and be like, I cannot hear you. The background noise is so loud. And I was 300 feet from a roadway. Can you imagine being within 100 feet and no sound barrier?
No, I can't. Of course, it cuts off what I needed to show. Can you see the bottom where there's like a red box?
I can't.
Hold
see
on,
the
let me try
bottom.
this one more time.
No, hold on. I'm going to get rid of the banner, and then it'll
Okay.
show.
Okay.
There you go.
There we go. All right, now we can see it. So this is on the Access website right now. If you go to Access Oklahoma or whatever, and you click on the study they're doing, they're asking for feedback on their environmental study. And this is under environmental studies. You can see it, and it says a noise study was completed according to Federal Highway Administration and ODOT policy. Noise impacts were identified at 6 homes. Noise walls were considered, but these walls would not reduce noise enough to meet goals established in the ODOT noise policy and will not be included in the project.
Those
So,
people
6
are
homes.
just completely screwed.
Sorry, we've identified that there's a problem, but we're not going to fix it because it's too costly for us. How does that help the landowner? How does that make it better?
And they had to build up. This is what people don't understand. And okay, maybe we citizens understand this, but the elected officials don't. They had to build up that east-west connector so much going into the bridge over the South Canadian because of the floodplain. So sound carries. So now you're up 35 feet, and you have all these cars, of as many cars as they say are going to use it, are up there, and now you're less than 100 feet. They left themselves less than 100 feet in some of those homes over there. So now you've got all of this noise just washing over the area. I can't even imagine. I can't
and look at
imagine
that.
because I have video. I mean, I have audio of that happening along State Highway 74, I-40, I-240, I-35. Like, I have, just go outside on a day next to Route 9 and listen to the sound if you live right there.
Yeah. And it even says right here at the top, the very first piece of information is relocations. It says approximately 6 homes and 22 businesses in the project area will be purchased by OTA. OTA is currently working with the property owners to complete these purchases and assist with moving costs. That's not exactly truthful. I would hazard to guess that all of those properties that they're mentioning right there, if they haven't settled with the landowner yet, they're in condemnation. 100%. They're in condemnation right now.
Yeah. And we had a
So
commenter.
that they're not still working with the landowners.
No. We have a commenter that said the bridge over Western is projected near 30 feet. Yep. Everything's high and elevated because they had to get it out of the floodplain because they're building through a floodplain. That's because we have a meandering river that floods, and we have video that show that flooding to be 1.25 miles wide. When we had drones in that one year, we sent them up, and the ordinary high water mark means nothing. If we get some rain like we're supposed to get, always around like the state fair time in September, I'm guaranteeing you that entire area is going to be river. And so what happens then if it touches their foundation with no permit and no mitigation strategy for anything? It's obscene. We live in a clown world.
We do.
But we have to show up, and like, you can't just let government do what they're going to do without some type of pushback. So I encourage everyone to come out.
Yeah.
tomorrow
Well, and if
night
you're
and do it
wondering
again.
what to talk about at council, I can give you a few ideas. First of all, the Turnpike Authority says that these interchanges are for safety. That way, first responders can get to, crashes faster, that sort of thing. Well, I personally feel like a lot of the crashes happen at interchanges because you have cars going variable speeds. And that's where, think about it, when you're driving on I-35 or any highway or any stretch of road, where do you typically see crashes? They're where cars come together, not where cars are just going at the same rate of speed right next to each other. Typically, that's not where it happens. So why in the world would we want to introduce a higher risk area that we know will lead to crashes? I mean, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy in my opinion. So there's that. And then another reason why we don't want crashes, obviously, we don't want people to be injured. But number two, our local fire departments and emergency responders are going to be responsible for responding to these things, these crashes that happen, and fires on the side of the road because of cars, who knows what, all these things that are going to happen that our first responders are coming to. The Turnpike Authority does not pay them back for that. They don't. You can look on the Turnpike Authority's website, go to about, and then you go to authority meetings, I believe, and then click on any of the agendas. And then within the first 15, 20 pages, you're going to come across the Oklahoma Highway Patrol's report. And on the last page of their report, you can see that there's a table that shows fire calls. And it shows how much time the firefighters were there, where they responded from, how many firefighters were there, how many trucks were present. And then there's another column for how much the Turnpike Authority reimbursed them for. And I have never seen an entry where the Turnpike Authority reimbursed any of these fire departments. And when you look at them, it's kind of heartbreaking because a lot of them are small towns like Friend. Do you think they have like a fully staffed 24-hour fire department that shows up? No, that's a volunteer fire department. A lot of these are volunteer fire departments because they are in rural areas. And so that's who's responding. And our city is going to be responsible for funding those calls. And not only that, but when the fire department and the ambulance are at those calls and tied up for, when you look at these reports, you're going to see how long they were there. A lot of times they're there for 2 hours. Because think about it. These cars on turnpikes are going at a very high rate of speed. That usually results in a large crash. A lot of times it's heavy trucks. I mean, they've even said they want trucks to take these as reliever routes, right? So if you've got heavy trucks, a lot of times they have lots of fuel on board or other hazardous materials. And so it requires a special cleanup crew, and they have to come and shut down the road. Firefighters are there for a lot longer period of time trying to clean up a hazardous waste crash than, a little fender bender in Norman. So you've got our firefighters tied up for a long period of time, which means they're not responding to citizens who may have a fire struck, your house might be on fire here, but sorry, we're over there working a turnpike.
Yeah.
You might have a heart attack. They need somebody to respond to get you to the hospital. First responders are not going to be there. They're not available because they're on a turnpike. And, and we're paying for that. So in my opinion, we need to limit the amount of crashes that there are, because we know that is going to put a strain on our resources. And so we need to prevent that. Prevention is the best, right? So
right.
Why even introduce it as a problem? And then also we know that the Turnpike Authority is not a good partner. They do not follow through on what they say they're going to do. And Amy, I don't know if we should do this today or another time, but we could probably post it on the website and people could watch it there. But I just looked it up a minute ago and it's 11 minutes long, which is kind of long. But I put together a presentation for City Council back in 2024 when this first came up that walked you through what happened with Oklahoma County. Oklahoma County tried to put a resolution together to work with the OTA, and eventually they were like, oh, this is not a great idea. And then I have audio clips within there of these commissioners saying, what? We were duped. They said this, and now they're back again asking us for more, trying to change things up. And you can just hear the frustration in their voice. They're saying, we're tired of being treated this way, and it's about time we tell everybody else, the public, about how awful we're being treated as well. Bottom line, they basically said they wouldn't do it again. They wouldn't partner with the OTA because they haven't been a good partner. So I don't know. If we have time at the end, maybe we can play some of that audio.
And I think I put that in a SUBSTACK, so I should restack that so people who weren't in the fight at that time can rewatch it. But I wanted to answer some of these the comments before we move on, because they're kind of interesting geotech stuff. So Jason says, I noticed dump trucks moving dirt from the overpasses, such as currently going over Penn near Indian Hills. Are they taking dirt from the river? Have there been studies for such movement of land? So I really hope they're not taking the soil from around the river, because that's an alluvial sand, and it's a rounded sand, and it's not fantastic for embankments. But they wouldn't be the only government agency to do that. I mean, they did that around the levees in Katrina. They dredged the river and used those to hold back the water. And how well did that work out in Hurricane Katrina in 2005? I don't know where their borrow source is. It would be interesting.
I can show you.
Oh, you can show me where it is, and I can.
Yeah, I can show you on Google Earth. I'm gonna have to log off and log back on. So let's do that. You keep talking, and I will log on a different browser. That way I can share my screen, and I'll show you Google Earth. You can see exactly where it's at.
Okay, good.
It's huge. Okay, all right. I'll be back.
So that the amount of dirt that they need in those 10-yard, so each truck is what, 10 cubic yards, and they have hundreds and hundreds of trucks, and that's where the damage to the roadways come in. So when Kelly shows me, I'm going to be interested to see that, because they should not, first of all, if they're anywhere within the river, the waters of the U.S., they have to get a permit for that, and they did not. They do not have a permit to pull from within that U.S. Army Corps of Engineers river basin. So if they are, that's another thing we can add to our lawsuit. But I'm hoping they're not using that alluvial sand for the overpasses, because that's going to cause some serious failures. And then you say they also filled a huge pond near Indian Hills between Western and Santa Fe. Who allows movement of land? That's a good question. I don't know. If the pond is not in a wetland, it's my understanding that if it's not in a wetland, or it's not controlled by the federal government in terms of waters of the U.S., I don't know who can tell you you can fill a pond. And so filling ponds and then driving on them or doing anything on them can be problematic if with excessive settlement. So over time, that water has all been saturated, and then you fill it up and you don't allow water to come in there. You can have some serious settlement issues that would happen long term, especially if it's a pond. It means it has a clay liner or some kind of bentonite liner, and clay can have some secondary compression settlement. So that's not good. And we know that they didn't make the embankments very good on the Kickapoo because they're all cracking within, I think, 2 years of being built. They were doing pavement overlays because of excessive settlement on some of those embankments and those cut and fills, which is unfortunate, but not, I guess, we knew it was going to happen because of how poorly they were built. And if you did a cone penetration test on some of those embankments, those in situ tests where you push a cone that has a load cell at the bottom, and you feel out how stiff it is, you can see very clearly that it's not adequately compacted.
So
Okay, Kelly, show me where that borrow source is.
look, there's one right here,
How can they do that?
And-
Isn't that delineated into the waters of the U.S. or is
and
that
there's
off
one
it?
right here. Look at these.
Is that on the Ward's land on the east side? The borrow pit?
I'm not sure whose property that is, but
Okay, so that's interesting to me.
I would
didn't
imagine they
know.
worked out a deal with the landowner. But what's interesting to me is that let's just take a little sidebar here and go over to watch this.
Are we going to go to see how many people are suing the OTA over this already?
No, they're not suing the OTA. The OTA has taken them to condemnation, so that's how they got there. But what we are going to look at is, oh, they filed another one. Now we're up to like 24, 25. These are all just in Cleveland County condemnations that the Turnpike Authority has filed on landowners. I want to take another little side minute to point out, look at all the developers. Barco Investments, E&K Investments, Rivendell Land, Uplands Development. Look at all South 35, I-35 properties, tons and tons. Raven Investments, Redleaf Construction, Solitaire Real Estate, Dark Hat. This just goes to show you that even the developers who are all for the Turnpike are not super pleased with what the Turnpike Authority offers them as compensation. But what I wanted to show you all is this little case right here, which was filed on March the 12th. It was originally filed in McLean County because they thought that this property over here, right in here, it's this little section of land right there. I wish I could draw on my map, but I don't know that I can. But anyway, they didn't know who rightfully owned this property. Was it Commissioners of the Land Office? Was it Bureau of Land Management? Was it one of the landowners? You know, because the river has accreted over time. It has moved. And so they just weren't sure where the property line fell and who had ownership at this point. So McLean County, it was originally filed in McLean County. McLean County District Court said, no, it actually is not McLean County. It's that property is now in Cleveland County. So they had to file it over in Cleveland County. And you can see it's 8.16 acres. And these are all the interested parties that may have an interest in it, that they're not sure. They want the court to make a determination as to who owns that property and who should be paid the just compensation for it. It was filed on March the 12th of 2026. And it was closed. It was not settled until July 31st, 2026. But they were absolutely accessing that property and starting clearing and all of that in January of this year, before they even knew who the rightful owners were, before they could get permission from the rightful owners to access that property. None of that just makes any sense to me. Like, I don't, they even acknowledge that they don't know who it is.
You know,
Therefore, they couldn't have gotten written permission to enter, to do any alterations to the property. The whole thing just seems all the more reason the city should not say, oh, they're going to do what they say they're going to do, because here they didn't even afford the rightful landowners the opportunity to put up any sort of a protest or to work out, quote unquote, just compensation or any of that. They just took it. They just went and started doing their thing.
I'm so glad that the person in the chat asked about the borrow sources, because I'm looking at it right now, but if you go to Google Pro, which is the one I use, you don't see that. It's an old overlay. So that's like pretty new.
So this is the Cleveland County Assessors.
Yeah, I pulled it up. I saw that. I pulled
GIS.
it up, now I can see it.
Yeah, and so one thing that I am worried about with Google Earth, because they haven't updated the imagery since like October of 2025.
Yeah.
I also keep getting this message from Google Pro saying that that app is no longer going to be available
I just saw that.
pretty soon. So I just
Yeah.
have this feeling they're not going to be updating the imagery there anymore. But if you go to Google Earth on their through a browser, it's not updated there either. So I'm not really sure what the situation is there. So historically, Google Earth is great for historical imagery, but my go-to source now for updated imagery is right here on the Cleveland County Assessors website. So I can pop that in the chat for everybody if you want to go there and take a peek. But and just while we're on here, if anybody wants to just see for the fun of it, you can go parcel layers. You can turn on, well, we won't turn on owner names, but you can put in up here.
Can you zoom in to Lost Creek, right to the north of where that one detention, or it looks like borrow source now.
So this is Lost Creek right here.
Yeah, zoom in a little bit,
Let me
would you?
see. Oh, I didn't know we could do fire stations. That's fun. I was gonna see if we could do.
So what
that's
everybody
probably not
has
it.
to understand is the OTA is arguing, or the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers is arguing that they could do a permit for the Lost Creek separately than a permit for the South Canadian River because they're separate, you know. And so if you can see Lost Creek, so they have 3 construction roads over the Lost Creek with a bunch of tin horns in them. And then you can see to the right, you can see that the embankment's coming off, it's gonna be crossing, what, 72nd? So, and then there's a big circle, right, that's where the city of Moore puts in their effluent, to the south side. Yeah. And they're in that big circle of green, right in the middle of all the brown, that's a delineated wetland. You can't touch the wetlands. Well, I mean, okay, so we have these laws and no one follows them, but first of all, there's City of Moore septic water going into that, and then there's going to be, you can't construct in that without a permit. So it's going to be interesting. I did not realize that there was that kind of like hexagonal, yeah, right there. And then the one to the south looks like too. I didn't know that was there.
Sure looks like a borrow pits anyways, because there's a road that comes over here. Anyway, the reason I brought up the fact that they didn't even know who this landowner was, right here to start that construction by the bridge. I'm not sure whose property this is over here. I mean, I could look into it, but anyway, but then there's another one on this side, and that's, you know, that's quite a bit. Let's see how many acres that is.
I can't even believe
8.
that the Bureau of Land Management didn't want to fight back on some of that stuff, because they're impacting. It's south of the roadway, but it's impacting the Bureau of Land Management land.
That's 8.5 acres right there. Let's see how many acres this one is. Almost 20 acres. Well, it probably is 20 acres if you include the stuff over here that I didn't quite get in there.
But if you zoom back out, you can see that that's a meandering system. It's very sandy. The vegetation is, loosely held. And you know where it's a wetland because it's perpetually green. So, we haven't had rain in how long? But those places that you see that are green aren't artificially watered. I mean, they're being fed to Lost Creek and that effluent lagoon, which is a whole nother story in terms of environmental.
If you have, or maybe I can pull it up here. Let's see.
But I think another thing you could talk about at the city is that while we don't have the right to tell them they can't build, the city can't, they say usurp the state. We have these environmental statutes that we can force them to do things before they're allowed to build. And so the notion that the city of Norman has to allow these interchanges or has to allow, there's going to be stormwater coming off of these linear transportation structures, before we allow them, before we give them a permit, we can force them by contract to do certain things. And so I'm really hoping that someone wants to talk about that. I'll put that out in the Substack if you want to talk about the environmental side, because we still do have cards to play from the city standpoint.
So just for comparison purposes, this is what that area looked like before. And this right here is the area of wetland that Amy is talking about.
Yeah.
And that's what it looks like now.
Yeah. But their permit said that they would not impact the wetland. Looks to me like they're impacting the wetland.
Yeah, well, yeah. Anyway.
Thanks for pointing that out, because I hadn't noticed that on the Google Earth that they hadn't been updating, but this is like pretty recent. This picture is very recent.
Yeah, let's just take a gander over here to this other side. Hold on, it's taking a minute to load. My internet says, "Whoa, Nelly." Here's our bridge. Well, anyway, okay. I don't know when this imagery was last updated. I think
It had to be late. It had to be late July, because that's when they put the beams over the river.
Yeah,
July
sometimes
19th or
it
something like that.
says at the bottom, it'll say like when they're like, there's like usually like a little like line down here at the bottom that says what, I don't know. It's not there right now. So anyway,
But I think the point is there are lots of things that our citizens can say tomorrow to help the city council decide to say no. And one of the biggest ones that I'm going to bring up is that when the OTA came to the city of Norman in 2022 and talked to the city council and the then mayor, Bria Clark, they said, and I quote, "All environmental impact studies will be done before we start to acquire the right-of-way." Okie dokie. Well, that didn't happen. And the fact that it's like the definition of insanity. The fact that the city and the staff is even willing to discuss anything with the OTA before they see these environmental impacts is crazy, because how can you plan for flooding mitigation, for noise mitigation, for light pollution, for all this stuff if you don't know if you don't know the level of the environmental impacts? So, I mean, and the fact that, and what some people don't understand too, is if you don't have a contract that spells that out, then you have no legal recourse once it's done. Like Kelly said, they're not good partners. They never do what they say they're going to do, even when they have contracts. But at least if you have a contract, not a resolution of cooperation, you can kind of force them in in the legal system to do the right thing. And that's what's happened to the Kickapoo people, is that they're suing the OTA over flooding concerns, and they're losing because, well, the OTA strings them out so long that they just want to stop. And two, they didn't have any prior, I guess, data to show that the aftermath, I guess, was bad, or I don't know why they're not winning the fight on that. But the reason why we need the impact statements before they build is so that we can say, hey, look, this is what is going to happen, and this is what the best practices are. Why didn't you do this? And so that's why Pike-Off is, again, in federal court to try to get that in writing, that there's going to be a ton of damage, and the homeowners are entitled to being made whole, and you can't ruin their way of life by doing a bad build and doing a bad mitigation strategy.
So this is the document that you've talked about several times as well. So their environmental study is a packet of information that they just keep updating on the Access website. And it's kind of interesting that it's not, they don't revise it. They don't republish it. They just add to it, and then so that it looks like it was there the whole time when it wasn't. So all of these things that you see in here were not necessarily done prior to any of their acquiring of property or construction. So anyway, so we've talked several times about the noise levels, and you can see here, somewhere in here, it talks about how the noise levels were so high that they should have done mitigation, but the barrier was not conducted. So anyway, so they came to this same conclusion, is that there was a problem. It was the noise was going to go beyond the threshold of requiring mitigation, but they decided not to do any mitigation because it was only going to impact one house, and it wasn't financially feasible for the OTA to use this mitigation, So poor landowners or people that are stuck next to it. And so I guess my question then is, did those people get paid for that lack of mitigation so that maybe they could put in their own? That'd be a good question for the landowners. If you're in this area and you were impacted, oh, looky here. I haven't even seen this part yet. So it looks like we're acknowledging that these people are going to be impacted all the way down here, and approximate noise buffer zones. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see if they do anything.
So the problem is, like, these mitigation strategies, a lot of them are wicked expensive. So like sound barriers are not cheap, especially because you have to put the foundation so deep, you know what I mean? And they have wind loads on them because they have to be so high.
Sorry. Cost of doing business. That's not my problem.
I get it, but that's why I'm saying there's no way that they're paying the homeowners to do their own mitigation, because they would be millions of dollars per homeowner to do it. And it has to be a system that is integrated with their neighbors. So that's why when transportation planners and agencies build these, it is their responsibility to do the mitigation, because they have control over the entire arterial, the entire linear portion, and that's why they should do it. And it says, all not warranted due to not being able to meet the NRDG. Their total cost,
whatever that is.
Total cost is $3.1 million. Cost benefit per homeowner is $284,000. Yeah, I mean, that's chump change to them, to be quite honest. But they should just do it. I think
they should.
Yeah.
And that's where I get so hung up, is that the OTA is always saying we comply with all state, federal, and local laws, blah, blah, blah. Okay. You could do better than that. Just because you don't have to do it doesn't mean that you shouldn't do it. So right here, you're acknowledging that it's going to impact these landowners in a negative way. Just what Amy just said a minute ago. We're almost positive that they're not compensating these landowners for their lack of mitigation, and they're not doing the mitigation. And so why? Why can they not just rise to the occasion, do what's in the best interest for the landowner, and do what's right because they can and they should, not because they have to? They're only going to do what they absolutely have to do. They're going to do the bare minimum that they can get away with doing so that they don't have to do anything else for the landowners because they don't have to and they don't want to. If they wanted to, they would do it. They would fix this. Now, in contrast, when the design contractors, the engineering firms come and they go, it's just going to cost us a little bit more to do the rest of this work than we thought it was going to. Change order.
Exactly.
We just throw in a change order. We just do a contract modification. How many contract modifications are we up to now?
Oh, for a ton. I mean, ever since they had a contract modification within 3 months of announcing the project in February of 22, and then May of 2022. I mean, it was like, hey, we're gonna pay you $3 million. Oh wait, 3 months later, really? It's gonna be $9 million. Oh wait, it's gonna be $35 million. Oh wait, it's gonna be $145 million. It's like, seriously? I want that job.
Yeah.
I mean, like, how can you just get millions and millions of more money? Oh, inflation. I'm like, inflation does not happen that fast.
Right.
The cost.
No, it does not. Yeah. So anyway, well.
But again, I'm going to say it again. It would really be helpful for everybody to send an email to all of the council members and just say, I want you to vote no, and give a couple reasons. You don't have to. I'll put up all the things we've talked about today, and I'll send it out. But you don't have to just copy and paste it. It means more if it's coming from what you really want to talk about. You have environmental concerns. No, you don't want any interchanges. And we've been talking about the east-west here because that's what they have the environmental impact statement on, and they're not going to do anything anyway. So
exactly.
Yeah, I don't. Even if they have an environmental impact, hey, it's going to be terrible. It's going to be 90 decibels, and the light pollution is going to be so bad that it's going to kill all the birds. You're not going to be able to sleep. You're going to have to black out curtains. And we're going to ruin your life, but too bad. It's going to cost us too much money. So, suckers, go sell your house at half price and leave.
Right. So this study that they have on here, you can see like how wide that goes from. I'm assuming this red line is supposed to be the center line of the east-west connector. Now, so we are talking about interchanges at the South Extension at City Council on Tuesday. So I want you guys to keep in mind that, and this is something we should tell City Council, is that the OTA is going to do the bare minimum. So they are not going to mitigate for this sound. This is just sound. This doesn't even include light pollution. But we can see right here, they're going to get out of it every chance they get. So City Council, I guarantee you they're going to sit there and say, well, this is why we need to partner with them so that we can have a say in this and we can try to protect our citizens, and we can try to work that into the contract where they're going to do mitigation. Okay.
They won't do that. I mean, yeah.
They won't. And they've proven over and over again they won't do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. They will choose the easy way out when it comes to landowners every single time. They do not care. This is 100% proof of it.
Okay, and can I read a little bit of this, just so, when we're getting ready to end. I want everybody to hear the actual resolution, just a couple of the pieces, because this is going to tell you everything you need to know. Okay, so this is the resolution that we're voting on tomorrow. Our elected officials are voting on it. We're trying to tell them how to vote because we are supposed to be able to control the government, if you believe that. Okay. So it's just talking about all the nonsense how the Supreme Court threw everything into a mess when they intellectually dishonestly said that what they had in statute allowed them to build the southern extension and the east-west connector. And then they says, whereas this access program includes the construction of a new turnpike route called the Southern Extension Turnpike from the Toby Keith Expressway, previously known as the East-West Connector Turnpike, through the South, City of Norman, City of Noble, City of Slaughterville, and City of Purcell. You know, go back to statute and read, where does it say that in statute? Oh, it doesn't. That's right. It doesn't. The Supreme Court is a joke. So then it says where the Southern Extension Turnpike, number 6, will include the construction of interchange access points at the Toby Keith Expressway, State Highway 9, US 77, and Interstate 35. Those are the 4 that I said. Okay, those are state-owned. They're allowed to touch them. Those roadways are adequately wide enough. There are 2 lanes in each direction to take the interchanges off. They don't have to have any more, upgrades and all that stuff. And the state pays for it, not the city of Norman. So we don't have any long-term maintenance, what's the word? We don't have any long-term maintenance requirements there. Okay. And it says the Oklahoma Department of Transportation presently owns and maintains I-35, State Highway 9, US 77, and the set will where the set will intersect. And then, whereas the set currently includes conceptual designs for the construction of tight diamond interchange access points at Tecumseh Road, Alameda, and Etowah. Whereas the city of Norman presently owns and maintains Tecumseh, Alameda, and Etowah. See, they need our permission. They're telling us we own it. We need permission to work together. Whereas the OTA has inquired, so it didn't come from the city of Norman apparently, the OTA has inquired with the city of Norman about the set project, including the conceptual designs for the construction of tight diamond interchange access points at Tecumseh Road, Alameda, and Etowah. Whereas some random public safety officials support multiple interchanges, including at Tecumseh, Alameda, and Etowah, as essential from an emergency response perspective. That is baloney, and there's nothing in reality about that, okay? Whereas current and future community interests of the city of Norman are dependent on well-designed and accessible transportation systems. Yeah, not with the OTA. Actually, we don't even want the set, so why don't you just leave our city? We don't need it. It's terrible. It's a terrible design. Whereas, in the interest of furthering the goals of coordinating efforts and in response to public safety concerns, the city of Norman desires that the OTA pursue the construction of future interchanges along the set in Norman, limited only to locations at Tecumseh, Alameda, and Etowah. Why do they need the resolution of cooperation? They need it for permission to develop East Norman. End of story. That's the only reason they're going forward with building this, for development purposes. Just say no. That's what you got to write to your council people. Just say no. It makes me...
because they're not going to do what they say they're going to do, and they don't care, and all the things.
But I think it's really important that we're educated about what's going on. And there's so much. We get hit with so much information. And of course, this is our topic. We live and breathe it, I swear, the turnpike stuff. But I feel like since we know so much about the history and we've done so much research on what they have done to other municipalities in the past. Okay, so let's put this comment up here. So comments I've heard from the council members who are on the fence revolve around the thought that the resolution isn't binding and they can later on reject a formal contract with OTA. I think this needs to be further explained tomorrow night. Yeah, good point. It's not, it is binding because state statute says they only need a resolution of cooperation. They need permission, and once they have permission, too bad, too sad, city, we can do whatever we want now.
Well, and so it's not so much that, I mean, it is that, but in addition to that, so the resolution is a formal acknowledgement that the city is open to and planning on working with the OTA. That's basically their affirmation that, yes, we're going to work with you. This is our pledge. We are going to work with you. We want to be partners in this, and we acknowledge what you're doing. We say it's okay, you can come do what you want to do, and we're going to work together on a solution to partner with you. That's what that says. Otherwise, they wouldn't need it at all. And the reason they have to have that is so the OTA, so they say, is so that they can start their planning process. So my guess is if the city signs a resolution and then in the end doesn't follow through with a contract, and the OTA made plans and spent money on whatever they, plans they thought they were going to have a contract to do, are they going to still try to hold the city accountable to pay them back for money that they lost while they developed those plans because the city didn't follow through? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question, but all the more reason there's no need to go into a resolution, because not only that, but the state statutes say that the Turnpike Authority is supposed to mitigate for sound. They're supposed to mitigate for light. They're supposed to do all of those things anyways. So it's not like the city needs to join with them to make them do these things. The city's also supposed to repair the roads that they damage. They're supposed to construct, anything that they tear down, like our north-south streets or east-west streets, our existing infrastructure that they have to tear apart to build their turnpike, and then they have to rebuild a bridge or an underpass or whatever over or under the turnpike. The Turnpike Authority is responsible for doing that. The state statute tells them to do that. We don't need we don't need a contract. We don't need a resolution. We don't need any agreement with the city or the county to make them do things that the statutes already tell them to do. And I wish I could just hit the council members over the head with this stuff. Like, why did they not know this? Why has the city attorney not explained all of these things to them?
The city attorney confuses resolutions and contracts, Kelly. I don't know what to say about that, because I feel like he literally is like the legislators, just regurgitating what the OTA is telling him without understanding the ramifications and the applicability of existing laws and how it's happened over the decades, how OTA has kind of just done what they wanted to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
and I don't know. There's another comment too. No turnpikes in Arkansas. I was thinking if all future highways are forever changing turnpikes, we will lose future growth to Arkansas. I don't know about that. I just think when I drive into Arkansas, I finally stop bouncing around in my car because the roads are built correctly. They have way better roads than we do. Maybe because they like to use asphalt instead of concrete. But I don't want to get the concrete lobby angry. You have to do it 50-50 here in the state of Oklahoma. Well, I just think about when you're driving on roads, why, and think about when you're driving down I-35 and all of those service roads, what's on the side of the service roads? Commercial and industrial development. And then think about another road you're driving along, I don't even know, like Route 412 or something in Oklahoma, or State Highway 77, for example, or even I-35 through the Arbuckles. There's no service roads, so there's no commercial and industrial construction, and that's it. So why would we put service roads in the city of Norman? Because we know what's going to happen. If you have a service road, you will have commercial and industrial development at some point, and we don't want that in our watershed. Yep. So let's just, if we can't stop the road, I still think we can on the southern extension, but if we can't stop it, then let them just put a road through it, and don't give them what they want, which is development opportunities.
Yep. That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
And, so, I was just going to say, I just pulled this up just in case maybe when we log off, you and I don't have to stay on for this, but maybe we could play this video and then close out the stream following it. This is that presentation that I put together, but at least then it will be documented here, so people can find it if they wanted to watch this to help explain why we don't want to partner with the city or with the Turnpike Authority, because this is the situation that Oklahoma County went through.
Is it overlaid, the voice overlay?
Yeah, you should be able to hear it. Let's
Okay.
see. Well, we can try it. The best predictor of future behavior is past behavior. Here you can see the initial resolution, what it said was basically those three things.
Yeah, I can't hear it.
Yeah, it is really hard to hear.
Yeah, maybe we can, maybe I can put it in a, if I don't have that one in a Substack, maybe I can embed it in there so people can, listen to it.
Yeah.
Years
Let's
away
try
from building
this.
the first.
Oh, here we go.
There we go.
Hold on. So they're talking.
This is Oklahoma County. So what we're talking about right now is we're kind of showing you why we know they don't follow through with anything. And this is the Oklahoma County Commissioners dealing with the OTA through the Kickapoo Turnpike.
Let's listen to this meeting. So this is after, hold on. The OTA came back to them after they had already signed an agreement. This is why we know that they won't follow through on what they say they're going to do, because they started with a resolution, then they amended the resolution, and then they came back with a contract. And then after they signed a contract, the OTA came back again and said, no, we want to change the contract. But guess what? You're already locked in. So then they're like, well, now what? I guess we're going to have to do. So here, you just listen. I'll let them tell the story in their own words. Here's how it goes.
I still can't hear it. I think you got to switch something.
Hold on. Here it goes. So the main objective to what we've already passed and sent over is they didn't like the 3-year time frame that the county was wanting to do the work that was identified in the agreement. And now they're sending us back something that doubles the amount of miles we're to do in that same 3-year time period. And he says, yes, that is correct. I think that is what they're saying. That's what he says. And then, let's see what that one says. Maybe I loaded the wrong one.
Yeah, let's. I think just we can get off and just put it in a Substack and send it so they can hear the whole thing, because it's really powerful to hear it when they're talking, and it just hits home. I actually think that I'm going to bring my phone tomorrow up with me, and I'm going to play. I'm going to play some things, what Joe Kelly says, into the microphone during my time to talk, and then I'm going to play like a 90 decibel trip along a roadway so they can actually hear what's going on, because I think hearing and seeing things is really powerful. So I think, well, before we get off, I just want to reiterate, we really need people in the room. I know people are getting so tired of this. Kelly and I are like, this is like Groundhog's Day all the time, but it's really important that we show up. It's item 29. It's the last item, of course, on the agenda. I hope it's not at 1 o'clock in the morning. Let's hope it's at like 8 p.m. Let's keep my fingers crossed. And then you can talk in miscellaneous comments too. And you're going to go crazy over what they're doing about the TIF arena as well. We don't have time to talk about it today, but I'm going to put it out there about what one of our city council members does in his spare time to raise money to fight the citizens of Norman who want to vote on whether we should use city money to fund a TIF arena. So, there's lots of stuff, really crazy stuff going on.
Yeah.
It's like our government is actively working against us. But we're gonna show up and do our thing and tell them what we think, and that's all we can do. So please send the emails today. Show up tomorrow. Go vote tomorrow, which I totally forgot that we had to vote again until last week, but you need to go vote tomorrow. And then we'll see everybody tomorrow at 6:30? Wear your red.
Yeah, I think 6:30.
And hopefully we get to our agenda item quickly.
Yep, hopefully so.
But
All right.
Stay tuned for some Substacks. There's going to be a lot coming out this week.
Yeah, I swear
Please
this
share.
Video, you don't want to miss the audio in it is fantastic. So let me pull up the right one. Sorry, I should have pulled that up last night, but I didn't think about it. But it's really good because you can hear them saying, we're tired of this nonsense. So you got to listen. Anyway, I might try. Do you think I can play that for council tomorrow? Do you think I can play an audio clip during public comments? Will they let you do that?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm totally going to do that then. I'm going to do
You
that.
only have
We're
4 minutes. You only have 4 minutes and you'll get cut off, but if you have a little clip that you can play.
Oh, I have a little clip. I mean, to take 30 seconds for him to say what I want him to say.
Yeah, good.
We're tired of it. Yeah, good. It's perfect. We're scoring.
All right. Well, everybody, hopefully we see you tomorrow night. And we will talk again next Monday morning.
Bye, guys.
Thank you for joining us on the Right of Way Report, a podcast by Pike Off OTA. You can join us here every Monday morning at 10 a.m., where we will bring you updates on legislation, litigation, and landowner information.